Over the last 3 or 4 years, costs have risen 30 to 40% in some markets.
I'm Collin Hart.
And I'm Blake Bratcher. And together we'll break down the strategies and structures behind what it takes to make a successful ambulatory surgery center.
If you're serious about healthcare, you won't want to miss this. In part 2, we'll discuss the dynamics of construction costs in ASC development. Blake, can you share with us some key considerations when designing your surgery center?
Yes, I think the top considerations in order to optimize your design and keep costs in line with what you need, I think the first is get physician input up front, very important. I think the second is to engage a development partner early in the process so you can aggregate a project team early on, so you're knowledgeable about what cost will be in estimates and moving forward. And I think the third is plan for reasonable volume and also plan for realistic growth. I think those three are the tops on the list.
So Blake, what are you seeing in terms of construction costs for an ASC development?
Well, first, the cost of materials, cost of labor, supply chain shortages have all led to cost increasing in construction. Over the last 3 or 4 years, costs have risen 30 to 40% in some markets. I think generally speaking, an interior build out of a surgery center now is between $450 and $500 a square foot, excluding furniture, fixtures, and equipment. With construction costs at a high level, it's important that you build what you need and allow for growth. In addition, it's important in the development process that you allow for sufficient lead times on things like air handlers, chillers, electrical switchgear, emergency generators. All of those things take a longer period of time than what most are used to, and so you want to allow for sufficient lead times there.
Now that we've firmed up our development cost, how does that play into the rent calculation?
The developer will apply a yield on cost calculation. That's a return on investment for the total cost of the project.
And so the way I understand that is they are probably going to borrow the money at a certain rate, and so they need an additional rate of return on top of whatever their borrowing cost is in order to get a return on that project. Does that sound right?
Yes, that's correct. But we're also keeping in mind the fair market value for rents in that area, as well as the strength of the tenant, right? We want the tenant to also be able to cover that rent and grow. So we've got, you want your yield, you also want to balance that with what's market and what the tenant can afford.